Hello, WordNerds! Happy Sunday. It is June 3rd, and today we are talking all about building an author brand, which is going to be really fun. I think there's going to be a lot for us to talk about. Feel free to ask us any questions you might have in the discussion section that are related to social media and author branding and all that, and we will try to answer them live. Before we get kicked off, we have special guest here with us today. Helen is visiting. Welcome, Helen. Introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Helen Powers, and I have been writing for the vast majority of my life. I have a book out in the world, which is very exciting. It's called Scarlet, and I'm currently working on a contemporary project. I'm an English major at university. There we go. Basic stuff.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I am dropping a link to Helen's book in the discussion section right now.
Shucks.
So we're going to jump right in with trying to define author brand, because this is one of those things where it feels a little weird, right? Because it's our personalities, but also you're trying to be on social media so people buy your books and stuff. So what are the things that make you guys think of an author's brand, or any authors who have particular brands that you like?
Are we going to go in a row, or is it just going to be
Let's just go free for all this time.
Okay.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot with this one since it's a really big question.
I think it would be portraying a consistent image that somehow relates to the theme of your book.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
If you're thinking of an author, I actually, for some reason, Lee Bardugo came to mind first of all, and every time I see her in any kind of photo, she has a dark lipstick on. And now I've associated that with her. And because she writes kind of dark fantasy novels, it kind of makes sense for her to have a dark image and to constantly be posting about ravens and have cool fashion choices and stuff. So when I think of her, I think of dark lipstick and creepy fantasy stuff. So that is her brand. Or if we're talking about Erin, one of our other WordNerds who is not here today, she has what would that be? She has a book out that is Dorian Gray kind of esque, and she does kind of creepy stuff and creepy middle grade, and so she has purple hair and likes to talk about witches a lot. So that's kind of her thing.
Yeah, I think in general your brand is just gonna be the way you present yourself, and that can be online, it can be at author events, and it's just a combination of so many things. It's the books you're writing and the things you're talking about on social media and the lipstick you wear. It's a lot of things together, and it doesn't have to be all of the things. You can just do some of the things.
I think the one thing it needs to be is part of, if you're looking at it from a super marketing perspective, the books you write are the biggest part of it. You want your author brand to reflect that. So the dark fantasy stuff, or if you're very romance oriented or all of that kind of stuff, you're kind of hyper accentuating your personality for the types of readers you want to connect with, kind of thing. But some authors writing a bunch of stuff and then it gets super complicated. But
yeah, I was thinking about Maggie Stiefvater. Her whole life just seems very much an aesthetic board of her own writing. It's if you go to her Instagram, it's here's these goats eating my Christmas tree, and also the mountains in Virginia, and they're so foggy and mystical. And that's you're gonna find all that in her books.
Her Tumblr is great for that too.
Yes.
Her Tumblr is just, it feels so much like you're just having a conversation with her when you're reading her Tumblr.
I've never done this. I need to.
I have her on Twitter and stuff, but not on Tumblr.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her Tumblr is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. That's also That's also how I found the out of context Raven Cycle Tumblr, because she reblogged it once, and they just take movie quotes and then attribute them to different Raven Boys characters. And I have spent way too much time on that page. Way too much. So moving on from that, how can we begin, like, presumably those of you here are also trying to work on building up an author brand. So if you're not someone with a ton of books out, or you are trying to go traditional and don't have an agent or a book deal yet, how are some ways that we can work on building up our brands?
It's a big question.
It is.
I have a starting point if you guys don't, because I feel like getting on the internet is a good first step.
Yes.
Having a social media presence would be huge.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, like, engaging. So, like, you know, just like posting like one-line Wednesdays, or like your work in progress aesthetic and stuff like that. Just kind of engaging with like the writing and reading community in general is a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be like isolating what, and this kind of like goes back to earlier, but like isolating what you want your brand to be and like focusing on that. So, you know, if you're like a romance writer, then like retweeting a bunch of stuff from Nicholas Sparks, or, you know, posting, you know, book photos like of other romance novels or what have you, like trying to figure out what you want to do. Because it's like, oh, you know, just like make your presence known, but like depending on what path you want to go down, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like working on that one part, developing. That's the word I'm looking for. Like developing that one part of your brand that you want to put out there. Words. I can't word today. I'm sorry.
And you can learn a lot from like looking at the people who you are most attracted to, sort of on the, like the people you follow and you love seeing their stuff and all that, and outside the book world as well. Like so much of social media now is brand, and like people that are just Instagram famous or big YouTubers, or they all have a way of sharing their stuff with the world that all kind of comes back to the version of themselves that they put on the internet. So look at what they're doing, the kind of content they're posting, the pictures, the stuff that you love, figure out what you love about it, and then see how you can adapt it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. So obviously we're all on YouTube. What other social medias, like platforms, are the rest of you on? We can go down the line for this one. I have Emma first. And just for like your author stuff, not like, hi, Facebook.
For me, I just do Twitter and Instagram, and mostly Twitter.
Right on. I have Helen next.
So my biggest one is Tumblr. I do like all of my author stuff on Tumblr. I have a Twitter that's kind of dead at the moment, and I need to bring it back. And I do have an Instagram, but it's mostly about my cat. So Tumblr is definitely my biggest one, and there's a huge writing community there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I have Kelly next.
Now I'm just thinking that like Tumblr was always my biggest like, oh, I'm old now thing. Like I could just never get my head around it. For me, I have a Facebook author page that I haven't used in a long time, and I'm thinking of just restarting it because it can be such a great way to interact with readers, but it's gotten kind of stale, so I want to start fresh. I love Twitter, and that is probably my best like connecting with readers and writers community. And then Instagram is kind of, I'm always very conscious of the fact that it can be open for readers and whoever to find me, but that's my very much like, this is what my life looks like thing. If I am a person that you think seems fun, my Instagram is kind of where that's going to be, because that's just books and dogs. So.
Yeah. I have Rachel next.
Again, YouTube, because I have my own thing besides WordNerds, and then Instagram and Twitter. I say mostly from Instagram because that's kind of how I started out. I always wanted to get into Tumblr, but I just never did, which I feel really terrible for. And I kind of gave up on Facebook. So,
right on.
Yeah.
I'm also mostly on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel too that's like just me, but I got pregnant and tired. And so I stopped going on a lot of things. But YouTube is definitely my favorite. And then for like, I feel like I can like help people and also meet people, and it feels a little more face-to-face. In some regards, like the live chats and stuff, I love those. Mm-hmm. And then Twitter, I like more for like meeting writers. Since I don't have a book coming out yet, I haven't really gotten as into using Twitter to find readers or to try and like build up followers or anything. And I have Instagram, but it's mostly my dog. So, and people from real life keep finding me on it, and it just feels so like, no, I just want to talk about books and creepy things. Why are you here?
No, but I think that's a good point that you made, that like if you don't have a book coming out yet, and like you don't need to worry too much about like building up a bunch of followers and coming up with like a super concise brand, like this person is like dark and creepy books, you know, like before you get published, I think it's mostly important to like just get comfortable using different platforms, and kind of just getting an idea of how other authors use it and like what you might want to do, and kind of like easing your way into it. But you don't need to worry about like, oh, I don't have 1,000 followers yet. Like that's okay. You don't have a book out yet. Like,
yeah, for sure. And each platform offers like different things. And so like doing YouTube isn't going to be for everyone because it's a lot of back work. And you also, there is blogging, which none of us really talked about. I feel like blogging is going out a little bit, like less people are doing blogging, but there's still a huge community for that.
Yeah, like, I have a blog. I just didn't really mention it because that's more like for me. It's not like not a lot of people read it on a daily basis. So I'm kind of like, that's for me, or in case I need to show some other blogger being like, oh yeah, I have a blog, or you know, here's my book review. It's on this blog, but like I don't really use it too much. But I do know other people that have like I was gonna use the word rollicking. I was gonna be like, they have a rollicking business over there on their blog. I don't know why that word came to mind.
Yeah. I always told myself that I would like buy a real domain name or whatever, because right now it's like meganjashinsky.wordpress.com or whatever, which is very long. But I was like, oh, I will buy an actual domain in something that's easier to remember how to spell than my actual name when I get an agent. And then I got an agent. It was like, I'll wait until someone has given me money for my books first.
Yes, good plan.
I forgot all about that when we were listing them. I do have an author website that I wasn't thinking of it as social media, but an author website is a big part of your brand, because like for the casual readers who are just curious about finding more books, that's probably the first place they're going to go. It's like, I don't need to know you as a person, just let me see your books. So I'm over on elatimer.com, and you can see Erin's brand all over that website. It is so good. And she doesn't have a blog. It's not something she like updates a lot, but it's a very solid part of her branding. That you've got her book information on there and her contact information in case you want to reach out, and a little bit of information about her and links to the social media stuff if you do want to find more. And it all looks like Erin.
Yeah, I just put a link to that in the discussion section for anyone who wants to check it out. Like it's all very much like, if you like the look of this site, you will like Erin's book.
Oh yes.
That reminds me, speaking of Erin's site, because I remember having a conversation with her like right around the time she got that site designed, because it is very with like the picture frames that goes along with her first book very well. And she was worried about it being too much of like just her first book. It reminds me of something that I wanted to bring up in this chat, is to be careful, especially if like your first book is coming out or you only have one book out, like don't base all of your branding around your book. It needs to be about you, because hopefully one day you will have multiple books out. So like don't make your website URL or your like Twitter handle and name the name of your book. You want it to be you, so that when people read your other books one day, they can still find you easily.
Yeah, for sure.
But Erin's website is good. Like I remember I was reassuring her. I was like, no, I think that'll work for anything you write.
Yes, very her style.
Yeah, so do you guys think that eventually every author who's putting out books should have a website, or do you think that there are ways around it? Or
I don't want to say you have to do it this way, but the short answer is yes. It's $10. No, it's about $15 a year for a domain name, and you can still host it through WordPress or whatever, and just have it linked back to that. And for that, is it really worth potentially losing readers? I don't think so, because you don't have to maintain it. It doesn't have to become something that you're putting all this effort into. It can be something you set up once and are just done with. And I do think it's worth it, but you don't have to. No one can force you to do it. But
yeah, I think it does
You
like more
definitely
professional when
should.
you're like, here's an actual website instead of like, here's a Facebook page, and yeah, just kind of in anything.
Yeah, I think you definitely should have a website.
Mhm.
Like
It
pretty much
really doesn't have to
anytime.
be.
Pretty much anytime I read a book by an author that I'm not familiar with, or I'm like thinking about reading a book by an author I'm not familiar with, like I go and look for their website, and then I maybe look for their Twitter too, like just to know more about them and their books. So I think you should definitely have one.
That's interesting because usually I go to their Twitter first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or
But
like if
I
I
do
want to
also-
know like when they're going to be on tour and where they're going, like on their book tours, that's something that would be on your website.
Yeah, for sure.
the other one I go to that we haven't talked about is Goodreads. That's my like. So when is the next book coming out? Research.
Yeah.
How long do I have to wait?
Mhm.
I completely forgot about Goodreads as like a
Yeah.
social media platform.
Yeah.
I
And
just
it's
think
a
about
big
it in
one.
terms of
Yeah.
being a reader,
Yeah.
not in terms
And-
of being an author.
And I love when
Yeah.
an author's Goodreads is linked back to all their other stuff. Like you can link to like their website or to their Twitter. A lot of times it'll have like their recent blog posts. Like that's really nice instead of having to go like digging. And there's like a million like Emily Johnsons on Twitter. And I'm like, which one's the
Yeah.
author?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it really
Yeah,
does
that's
save
true.
so much digging. Like I love when you find like book pages for like 5 books down in the series because some author somewhere has seen the author say how many books are in the series, so they've just set it all up, and now I don't need to find the information.
Yeah, for sure. So if someone is in a position where they want to start putting together their website, whether because you've got a book coming out soon or you got an agent and have $20 to spare, what are some like for sure your website should have this? I know we've brushed on it a little bit, but
A contact
There's
page.
a pretty good template here, yeah. Like contact about books and news.
Sorry.
I've heard some people who actually work with like library events and stuff have said that you should always have like a press kit page where it's like a photo of you, like your professional author photo. It should be a professional, like not necessarily professional, but a nice looking photo, not like your family at Christmas, just cropped down to you. But like, a nice photo of you and like your contact information, like the names of your books. Like you should have all those things should be on your website and like easy to find.
mm-hmm. That's something that can be useful too on your Twitter. Having like, it doesn't have to be professional because I mean, money, but like a photo like of your face, and then you can put your books in your Twitter banner, or for example, me, I would hope that my brand will someday be like they read my book and are horrified and they're like, but she's so cute. Like, she's so small. She's 5 feet tall. Like, how did this happen? Why?
So much darkness compressed into that body.
One small body. And so for me, my like whole Twitter banner is like, it's my name really big and like some pink flowers on just like a black background. It's like I write spooky things, but I myself do not look particularly spooky. We've got a really good question here in the discussion section regarding like information to include on your websites. What kind of personal information should we provide? Like what kind of interests, etc.?
So whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's up to you. There's nothing you have to tell anyone, but it's nice to have things that people who share something with you can go, oh, that's me too. And like, they'll remember that about you, that, oh, they're Canadian as well, or they like dogs or knitting or snowboarding. Things
I was
that
about to say, these are all things Kelly likes.
I added the snowboarding.
Yeah, I like when I can find out something like not like super personal, but personal about an author, not just like they wrote these books and they live in this city. Like, you know, it's like, and they have a pet hedgehog. I'm like, that's cool.
It's always nice when you get a little bit of their personality in their about page or in their like author bio at the end of the book. Because
Yeah.
that's when there's just that little touch of it, and you're like, I feel like I would get along with you if I met you in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. There's something I was going to say about this, but I can't remember. So, welcome everyone who's in the discussion section. If I miss your question, please ask it again. I'm like 50% worried that my computer's not showing me all of them. So if I miss it, I'm not ignoring you, I promise. And I have a list of questions here. Oh, yes. So maybe we could move into like actually gaining followers and like, how do you do that? What is like the etiquette of doing that? How you do that in a non-jerkish way and in a way that doesn't feel like, because one of my biggest pet peeves is like I follow someone back and they're like, thank you for the follow back. Here is a link to my work. And it's like, I didn't follow you for this.
Even a general automatic response annoys me. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate the like follow, unfollow. People don't do that. It's awful. You like follow someone, you follow a bunch of people, hoping that at least a few will like refollow, and then you unfollow all of them a few days later and then follow them all again. Like there was a period of time where one account was like following me like once a week. And I was like, are you serious? I'm not going to follow you.
I don't have enough followers to not remember that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like back when we like first started the channels. I did not have very many followers, so it was like I could notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a line of like how much is too much, because like if you're going on every social media platform and just like randomly commenting on stuff, being like, buy my book, here's the link, buy my book, here's the link, or like just constantly like, okay, yeah, we get it, you have a book, but like don't be obnoxious about it. And like there is an amount of like there's a, oh my gosh, I'm on the internet and I can't word today. Okay, so this is forever going online. All right, here we go. But like if you're promoting yourself, you want to promote yourself, but you can only go so far before it becomes overkill. So I think you have to find the line of what is overkill and just not cross it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I will do as like a rule of thumb is if I have found someone, most of mine is on Twitter, and I think Twitter is one of the biggest ones for writers. Obviously, we all talked about Twitter at some point. And a big thing about Twitter is just like the authenticity. And so for me, if I reply to someone, like someone has tweeted something and I'm like, I like this person, I want to reply to them and try and interact with them. If I try that once or twice and they don't respond at all, like they don't heart it, they don't reply, then I'm like, they are not interested in communicating with me in that way. And I back off and I'll just like favorite their things every now and then. You definitely don't want to be the person who's like replying to every single V.E. Schwab tweet that she does and like getting really personal or something like, I know all your cats' names. Like that sort of like knowing the boundaries, I guess.
I was gonna say something, but I don't remember what it was.
What a night for words. Yeah, and I think this might differ a little bit depending on like Instagram versus Twitter. I'm not super proficient in Instagram, but Twitter is much more about conversations, it seems to me, than Instagram has seemed. Like it's a lot more about like interacting with people's brands versus Twitter, where it's very like
it's more personal.
I guess. Yeah. Like back and forth. That makes any sense?
Yeah, that's true. I can see that.
I think
because if like someone comments on my Instagram, it's like, hey, this is a cool photo, or like, oh wow, like I love that book, and it's just kind of like a one note kind of thing. But on Twitter, it's very much like question answers, commenting on people's stories and of what's going on and stuff like that. So that is like more of a conversation there.
I think a lot of problems with author social media use can sometimes come when someone sees their social media like specifically as just a way to sell their books, because that's not what it is. And like there's the whole, like, you don't really sell books on social media. You kind of can sell yourself to a point where people be like, let me look up this person's books. But like going into like hashtags where people are talking about stuff like writing and reading related stuff and being like, buy my book, here's a link, like that's not going to really earn you a lot of love or sales. So yeah, like look at it as a way to like connect with people, with other writers, with readers, but like not so much a way to like get sales.
Yeah. I've noticed if I'm looking for something cool, or I'm looking for a new book, like maybe I'll go into the hashtags of, one line wed, or if I'm on Instagram, like book blogger or something, you just click that and like, oh cool, like here's an author and their book looks interesting, like maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, definitely not not gonna go through there and be like every book blogger, like, and I've definitely had that before. People have commented being like on just like totally random stuff and just being like, oh, you should buy my book, here's the link, and I'm kind of like, I didn't ask for this. This is very strange. I don't know you. Like it's weird. So just don't do that.
Yeah, I don't ever go into social media looking for books to buy or read. Like sometimes I'll find like, oh, this person sounds really cool. Let me look their stuff up, see if they have anything out, and maybe I'll read it. But I'm never like, ooh, I need a book to read. Let me go into Twitter and like try to find somebody who's promoting their books. Like I'm gonna go into like Goodreads for that.
I think the way I see it is that on social media, other people are going to sell your books for you better than you ever can. So that's where bloggers come into play and all of that stuff. Except if I'm seeing someone who didn't write the book recommend it, I'll probably pay more attention. Whereas own brand and social media is a good way to turn people who have already found your books and enjoyed it into fans of like you and your general book world stuff,
and letting them know when you have more books out.
Yeah, so they saw your book, they liked your book, maybe they've already read your book, they came looking for more, and that's kind of where your personal brand comes into play.
Yeah. So. You know what? That's so true, because just the other day there's an author that I followed on Instagram because I saw her promoting her own book, and it was like a really cool like bookstagram lay, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. And then I realized that every single photo I ever saw from her was of her book. And there was never anything else. And I'm like, and I finally got to a point where I was like, another one of these? Like, I'm so done. I just unfollowed her. So, and I felt kind of bad because I was like, she seemed cool, but like from her bio and stuff and like her captions, but like every single photo is of her book. And I'm like, I'm bored. Like, there's nothing more here. Like, I know it's there.
Yeah.
What else?
So she's probably focusing on trying to find new people to follow her through like the hashtags she's using and stuff, and realizing she's alienating the people who are following her as a result.
Yeah. That's a good point, that like definitely something you should be considering and putting some effort towards in your social media use is like supporting and promoting other authors too. Because when you're making those connections with other authors, then you're more likely to have people promote your stuff. So like, yeah, if you're only ever promoting your book and never being like, hey, I read this other person's book and it was really amazing, then like that's not going to earn you a lot of friends in the writing community, which like can really help with building your brand when you have friends and people who are like, willing to promote you.
Yeah.
Like if I see a big name author being like, I love this book, I'm gonna be like, okay, like let me check that out. Like, if you like it, I'll probably like it.
Yeah. I think writing is such a weird job in that like it's not in an office. It's not like you're not just gonna go into the office one day and work really hard and people are gonna be like, oh, look at Megan, she's in her cubicle working so hard, she should get a promotion. It's much more like the social media that you choose to use for your brand is your office, and like you shouldn't be like poking your head over other people's cubicles being like, I am amazing. And you seem like someone who would want to promote me. Do you want to promote me?
That's a good analogy.
I know, like, that was a good, I'm going to use that. That's great.
Yeah, it's like super weird. It's like I'm making friends and promoting other people is going to be your best bet in promoting your own work. Other things you can do though, this was like perfect timing because Amanda in the discussion section just asked favorite Twitter hashtags to use /watch, is implementing hashtags to find communities of similar writers. Because I know like sometimes it's hard because you get on and it's like, I only know Susan Denner and she is amazing and very busy and isn't gonna like have a one-on-one chat with me about writing most likely. But using hashtags is a great way to find communities of people who care about the same things as you and who are on the same leg of their publishing journey as you. So like what hashtags do you guys like on the various different social medias, Twitter, Instagram?
Hashtags is not my strong suit.
And yeah, honestly, I look more for people retweeting stuff than I do like actually going into the hashtags.
The only one I'll actively follow is One Line Wednesday. I find the stuff that people choose to share for that to be so intriguing, and it's like, now I just want to read your whip.
Yeah, I really like One Line Wednesday. I like posting in it. Like, it's like a nice way to like share little bits of your book and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I also like am writing, hashtag am writing. There's on Instagram, there's like writers of Instagram or Bookstagram. For Twitter, there is hashtag on the porch. People mostly use that one in preparation for pitch wars, but I found that like it's bigger than that. Like people are just always really nice and really supportive and talking about writing. The Wattpad does chats as well.
I really like looking at like people's like novel aesthetics. I think sometimes they'll do like whip aesthetics, but like I'm not good at like gathering aesthetic boards, so like I never contribute, but I like seeing other people's and be like, ooh, this looks cool just from these 3 pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I love aesthetic mood boards. Oh my god.
And I also like, this is more of a hashtag to follow, but I like agents have some hashtags they use. Like 10 queries is a really popular one, where they'll like go through 10 queries in their inbox and they'll just give like quick tweets being like, this is what's wrong with this, or this is what I like about this, and then whether or not they like passed on it or asked for more. So that can be really informative if you're looking to query or if you're already querying, because you start to realize that the vast majority of passes are because the person didn't follow the guidelines for submissions, or because they put like the wrong person's name on the email. Like it's a lot of like really easily avoidable things. So
for sure,
something to look into.
Another one in that same vein that agents and editors use is hashtag MSWL. That stands for manuscript wish list. And this is great, not just for like finding agents and editors who are looking for the book you've written, but I love going there for inspiration.
It's so good.
There's like, I want a vampire in space. And I'm like, oh my God, I could write that. That would be so fun.
I love when they get like super, super specific and you're like,
yeah,
what are the chances that someone specifically has this book? Like,
yeah.
I'm just like making notes because I'm like, I didn't know about that.
There's a whole website for MSWL.
Yeah, there is.
Where they like they like talk to different agents and find out like what's on their wish list and like books that they love that they'd like to get something like that. So it's really helpful.
Yeah.
The one that I loved, it was years ago, it was a reader blogger wish list from like, there was a couple specific days that did it, because the amount of ideas were just huge and like so creative and less focused on like, I could sell this, and more of like, this would just be so much fun. So, but that went away years ago, which made me super sad.
Yeah. Revamp it, just the 6 of us.
Yeah. That made me, talking about aesthetic boards and stuff, made me think of something interesting that I want to try and like parse out with you guys, because I am like super likely to follow an author if I like the aesthetic boards they post for their books. And that is also like that's straight up promoting your own work. You're like, here is my character, what do you think of them? Or like the one line is like, this is my book. So like, what is it about those things that makes it feel less like, buy my book?
Oh, I think it's totally because they're sharing something about their book and not just saying, buy my book, here's the title. Like, you know, they're giving me a reason to want to read it. Other than just like inserting, and they're not inserting themselves into a conversation. I don't know. Yeah, it's like they're actually sharing something from it and being like, here's like a line from it, or here's like some pictures that represent my book. So that it gives you like the chance to decide if you would like it.
Yeah, it gives you the chance to decide, I think is a good way to say it.
And I would say even buy my book like links are not bad if you don't do it too often. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
The
say
problem
like,
is when
oh,
it's all you do constantly.
Yeah, you can say like, oh, it's been a year since my book was released. Like, check it out. You know, here's a link. Like, or you know, like, it's Monday. Here's my link. It's Tuesday. Here's my link. Oh, it's Wednesday. Here's my link. And you're like, okay.
Surprise! It's Thursday. Here's my link.
I think it's a good idea to either have in your bio or as your like pinned tweet if you're on Twitter a link to like your book. You know, like have it there so that when people come to your Twitter or your Instagram or whatever, it's like right there up top. But yeah, like every single day of the week, not a good idea.
Okay. This is like super related to a question we have from Jennifer. How do you find a good balance in self-promotion? I can't seem to find the thin line between like just right and too much / annoying.
All right, so I'm the first to admit I'm terrible at this. I hate talking about my own books. I don't like to do it. Generally, the rule of thumb that I lean towards is do it when it's organic, of like if something's coming up that's related to your book, and there's a natural way to add it in the conversation, do that, or hashtags that are related or stuff like that where it's not forced. I do think there is a time and a place to do the 1 year anniversary thing or whatever of like, I should put myself out there more. I know I should. So it's more than what I do, but that is my general rule of thumb of like when it comes naturally in a conversation.
Kelly doesn't even always tweet about her books on their release days.
Right.
So, like, yeah. On the release day of your book, you can definitely tweet, hey, my book came out today.
Okay, I have an unrelated point on that, but we'll come back to that after this question.
Yeah, definitely when it's like organic and natural, like don't be afraid to be like, hey, I wrote a book. Like, because that's cool that you wrote a book.
Yeah. I know that's so hard to figure out. Like that is my least favorite part, is figuring out like when I should be like, hey, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or like, hey, please follow me on Twitter because I'm hopefully going to have a book deal soon and I want you to buy it. But definitely, like, if someone has asked for it, that is a great time. I am also not opposed to, like, when people do post those aesthetics. Twitter has the threading option now. So you could be, like, reply to your own tweet and, like, if you like this aesthetic, here's the link to the book. Something that isn't so like targeting, I guess.
And yeah, finding ways to do it that aren't all the same thing. Like there's different ways to approach like the aesthetics or playlists or so ways that are kind of self-promotion, but a little more interactive or interesting.
Yeah, or doing like a giveaway of your book.
Yeah.
It's like I'm giving away a copy of my book, and then it like draws people in because you say like retweet and follow or whatever, and then you know only one person can get the book, but maybe 3 or 4 have found you now and want to read your book, and so they'll go to the library or go buy it if they have the money to do it, you know. So what's this about your release day?
Oh, not so much about the release day. Like where my hangups come from is I think what you were saying earlier about like real life people finding you. That is what makes me uncomfortable. Of like, I think I would be better in a author only world where like my aunts and uncles can't see me promoting my book. Like pen names is the obvious answer, but the whole
You're
thing.
telling me my dad follows me on Twitter, so I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like that's a big part of why I stopped using the Facebook author group that I had. Of like too many of my relatives joined it. And I'm like, they're gonna be the ones interacting with posts and like saying stuff, and like some of them have my last name and it's weird and it makes me uncomfortable and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I definitely get that of being like, once you meet someone, it makes it, or once you like someone knows that it's you, it makes it so much weirder. Yeah. If you're close to someone. Definitely had that before. Or you have the family members that like quote like all your tweets and they're like, oh, like good job, sweetie, or whatever. Or, like, oh, this looks really great. And you're like, oh my god, mom. You're like, thanks, grandma. Like it's just like it's a little weird.
Yeah, I think it was Lily Mead was tweeting last week or a couple weeks ago about how she came out and her parents had, or it was her brother maybe, had a YouTube video of her playing on the TV. And that would be my nightmare.
My parents do that. Oh my gosh. Because like my dad doesn't have any kind of social medias, but my mom's like pretty active on it. And so the other day I come downstairs and like I still live with my parents and like I came downstairs and I'm like, what is that? And I realized that my mom was showing my dad my YouTube videos, but not just like on a computer. She was like projecting it onto the TV, with like Apple TV, and they were watching my videos. And it was the most awkward thing in the world. So they came down like, what are you doing? I was like, cool, I'm just gonna leave now. So you can do that, and I'm gone.
It's like we're on YouTube, so like we're cool with the sounds of our own voices and the way we look. It's just extra weird when someone you know personally is watching you talking about something that you're like so passionate about that they are not.
I remember having a coworker who found my YouTube channel through my Instagram. She's the only person who's ever like detected her way to my YouTube channel, and I was just like, it's like, no, I don't want this to happen. And the next day I took my YouTube channel off of my Instagram because I was like, I don't want anyone else that I know to do that. But when it comes to like promoting my own book, like I went right on to Facebook and was like, hey everyone, my book's out. Check it out, and like linked to it because I was like, I want my family, I want my friends, I want everyone to know that this is happening.
Because you guys are the most likely to buy.
My mom also has like 2,000 friends on Facebook, so it was like, hey mom, you want to share that?
Well, like, it's exciting when you have a book out, and obviously you want to like tell everyone about it, but you know, just like keep your enthusiasm like a good level, you know.
Oh, exactly.
Words.
Don't dial it up to an 11.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day. Only on release days. Dial it all the way up.
Perfect for that.
Yeah. We had a question from Leah. Do any of you plan out your social media posts, or do you more go with the flow?
I go with the flow.
The flow. Never planned a social media post in my life.
Yeah. I've heard like TweetDeck and stuff where you can like schedule things, and I know a lot of authors will do that.
I used to do that, like just trying to make sure I stayed consistent and like doing stuff for like when there was Write All Year and all of that, trying to like post regularly. So then I don't have to think about it for a week. I can do it once for half an hour and that's it. But for the most part, for my own stuff, it's just whenever inspiration strikes.
Yeah, sometimes I will admit, sometimes like, so my Instagram is like half modeling related stuff and half book related stuff. So like sometimes if I look and I'm like, oh, I posted, 3 of the same themed photos, I'm gonna try and post one of the other theme, but that's kind of it. It's kind of like all I do. Don't really like plan anything.
Yeah, that counts. So like you're being aware of what it is you're posting and like balancing your kind of different sides. And
I'd say aware. Yeah, I'd say I'm aware. I'm not necessarily like planning it, but like, might look into posting this kind instead of this kind, or I made this many tweets about this, so maybe I'll lay off of it for a while or what have you.
Sometimes I look at my Instagram and it's like, I've done 5 pictures of my dogs. I should do a picture of a book next.
Yeah, exactly. Like, balance. Everything's balanced.
For YouTube, though, I am much more likely to use scheduling because on YouTube, it benefits you a lot to make sure that you have content coming out at the same time every day or week or whatever you've chosen. And so I do for that, like to look at, okay, well, we've got these live chats planned. What's my topic going to be? And then in an ideal world, I film and schedule ahead of time, but always trying to at least do it like the day before.
Yeah, I do.
I do like YouTube schedule. Yeah. Do use that? Yes. I'll try and film like multiple videos in one day and then like upload them and schedule them. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I don't do that.
Yeah. And for YouTube, I also I like to look at the analytics of like which of my past videos have done well and why do I think that those did better than others, which have been more useful to people than others. Just like looking for ways to not like replicate it, but like, oh, people really liked my skeleton worksheet that I made. So what other worksheets can I try and come up with that'll be useful to people? That sort of thing.
Also, I just pulled up Megan's Instagram and I've decided there's not enough dog pictures. So.
Yes, there can be more.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about like choosing a brand that kind of reflects your books and that sort of thing. And so I did want to talk a little bit about, we talked about how this gets complicated when you write multiple genres. And I know Kelly writes lots of genres. So like, how do you, or any of you, cultivate a brand when you don't necessarily want to only write dark fantasy or whatever?
The advice I see in the self-publishing world is very much to establish yourself as one thing first, of like, and obviously the publishing rates of what is not recommended necessarily, but in terms of the advice for launching your career as well as possible is like 5 books in this genre before you consider even touching anything related to it. Like super establish yourself here first and then branch out. And even then, like, the more focused your brand can be, the more likely your readers are going to carry over. So sometimes it's worth just splitting up pen names. I do contemporary on one and every like sci-fi fantasy on another, but even that is technically not best practice, but it's a balancing act of what actually makes sense for you with what is the best possible way to do it, kind of thing. So
We lost Helen.
Oh no, Helen!
You're back. She was really offended by what Kelly said.
I will not do that.
I've had a super unstable internet connection for like 2 days because we've been storming and flooding and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh my goodness.
We've had some of that too. Yeah.
I would also say, like, definitely, like, you want your brand to reflect, like, you and, like, your personality and be, like, organic. So, like, I guess if you're writing in a lot of different genres and you're not going to split it up into, like, different accounts and pen names, like, first and foremost, like, be you. Like, you don't have to be, like, I write some creepy fantasy and some light contemporary, so I'm going to do half my pictures are going to be me in dark lipstick and half of them are going to be me wearing bubblegum pink, you know, like, just do it unless that is how you are. Then
that could be like a really dope aesthetic though, if you do like, if
Half
you're on
and half.
Instagram and it's always half and half makeup or something.
Hell yeah.
I would follow the crap out of that.
Megan, you need to start doing that.
But you don't have to. Like, you can just, like, I think, you know, we talk about how much we love V. Schwab on, like, Instagram
Everywhere.
and Twitter, and, like, I don't feel like she's super, like, let me represent my books. Like, she just kind of is herself on there, and that's part of what makes it so great, you know? There's lots of pictures of, like, beautiful Scottish countryside and her dog and, like, drinking tea, you know, just, like, things that are her, and it works.
Yeah, and I think the more people get to see like you just talking, like either through YouTube or Twitter, or like interacting with other people, when they read your books, they will find pieces of you like in them. Like I know after I watched the Tolkien lecture that V. Schwab did, which I've mentioned every week since I watched it, because it's so great. But I went back and I was reading book 3 in her Shades of London series, and I was like hearing it in her voice, because she has this great voice that has like just a very slight Scottish accent occasionally. And it was like, I can picture her writing this now, and it like solidified that I was like, no, I like her as an author. She's super cool. Like, I want to read more of her books.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a thing on social media where like people are obsessed with other people, and not even necessarily like, you know, maybe someone they're just like, oh, that person's like really pretty, or like, oh, that person really likes doing, you know, the same thing I do, like, and then you kind of become obsessed with them, and you know that goes into
It's
whole
like a primate
internet
thing.
yeah, like internet stalking and whatever. But like people kind of want to know a little bit about you, so it doesn't necessarily always have to be this big show of this is my brand and, you know, this only aesthetic pictures for this and, you know, dark lipstick all day every day, although that is me. But like it doesn't necessarily have to be this big. Yeah, exactly. That's just me. It doesn't have to be this big production all the time. You can be like, hey, here's a picture of some tea and a new book I'm reading, and everyone will be like just as excited as if you post like another, you know, aesthetic mood board, because like people want to know you and your book.
And honestly, that feels so much more authentic. Like when someone always looks super put together, their like desk is always clean, all of their pictures are just like beautiful, Like
don't trust that person.
doesn't feel relatable, you know, and it doesn't feel like it's really who they are.
Except for Roshni Chokshi.
Yeah.
I love her so much with all my heart. She's like a Disney princess. I would follow her to the ends of the earth. She makes it look really natural, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you do this, but you do it great. Her captions are prettier than entire books that I've written.
Yeah. But you don't have to be
She's
Roshni
amazing
Chokshi.
writer.
I don't have to, which is good because I never could.
On the same area, do not be afraid to utilize your pets. I know for me once, there was a YouTuber I was randomly following, and she started fostering a litter of kittens and was like posting Instagram stories about these kittens. And I wasn't super following her or anything, but now she's the first person that shows up in my Instagram story feed because the kittens are long gone, but she was always the first one I was clicking on because I wanted to see how the kittens were doing. And it's like, so now I'm super following her anyway, because you find little things to get involved in, whether it's pets or like a home renovation project they're doing or something, some way that people can feel like they're following something that's going on in your life, and then they'll just start following you by habit. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm following them anyway. Let's see how they're doing.
I appreciate when someone is like, I've been writing all night and had 6 cups of coffee and have giant dark circles under my eyes. Like, I'm like, yeah, I relate.
Yeah. Like there's one YouTuber I watched that had there's a YouTuber that I think it was he like drank a bunch of coffee or something, and then it was like 2 a.m. and he was like, I have nothing to do, my roommate's asleep, I'm so bored, I'm just gonna start filming. And so he just filmed himself like talking about his day and like trying to eat snacks really quietly because we didn't wake up his roommate. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Like it's so ridiculous. And like he mostly did like skit videos and stuff, so like you see the whole like planned out persona, and then you just saw him like being super weird and like sleep deprived and just stuff at like 3 a.m. and it was the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, I will watch you for that. Like that is awesome. So if you have some realistic nights, you know, in your Instagram, or like a funny real life thing that happened to you on Twitter, like I'm gonna be 10 times more interested in you instead of just when you have, you know, book picture after book picture.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you mentioned that, because the videos on the WordNerds channel, the ones that tend to do very well very quickly, are frequently the ones where we're like, I wrote every day for a week and here's me vlogging it. Or like, here is me talking about like NaNoWriMo because I'm on day 15 and I feel dead inside. Also cat.
Yeah. He decided he wanted to cuddle, and he's trying to get on my chest.
How could you say no? I mean, come on.
Oh,
This is Watson.
he's so fluffy.
He is.
I wish my cat loved me like that.
I literally sit here and play video games, and he's like, "You're not paying enough attention to me," so he jumps on my lap, and then he'll sit there while I play video games. I'm just like, you know what? I'm not even mad.
Oh, adorable.
It's very in the way right now, but that's okay.
That's okay. He can join.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll be peeking in and out for a while now.
That's okay.
The desk is where he wants to be.
Speaking
Just trying
of
to keep him
pets
off
getting
the
in the way and internet presence, I was listening to an episode of Print Run podcast recently, which I love and I recommended in my video this past week. But there was like one point where one of the hosts was like joking around, and he was basically like, if you like don't take like an artful picture of your cat sprawled across your computer, like, are you even a real author? You know, like,
It's so true.
and he was like, even those pictures, you're like, is that even real, or did you put your cat there? Like,
It's not even a real cat.
yeah. Readers and writers love their dog and cat pictures. So.
Oh, yes, we do.
If you've got a pet, use them.
Bunnies, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely we had someone mentioning in the discussion section, Jennifer mentioned being a graphics hobbyist and trying to tie that into author brand. I think definitely using your other hobbies and showing like, I'm a well-rounded person, I love my cats, or like, I do other creative things, can definitely draw people in. I know Erin Bowman was a graphic designer professionally before she became an author full-time, and she still like designs all the graphics for her book, and They're always beautiful, and so I'm always like, oh, I gotta see like what Erin Bowman has coming out next because I want to know what aesthetic she's gonna do for them.
Megan, you have a great point. I'm sorry. I just like,
watching it happen.
He's trying to. His favorite thing is like walking across my keyboard when I can't have him do it. So I'm trying to block him from it. And he's very cute, but he's such a pain in the butt. He's going over it now, so he's gonna be on this side.
Oh, I see whiskers.
There he goes. Okay, we're good. He's off the list.
Okay.
Thank you for guest starring.
I think it's also more interesting if a book is like relates to something that you do. Like again, graphic designer. Like, oh, you know, she designed all the character sheets, or she designed the cover. Like, I'm going to be more interested then. Or if you say like, oh, this book is about snowboarding and the author is a professional snowboarder, like I'm going to be more interested then because I'm like, oh, they know what they're talking about. And then from that, it's like, oh, if, you know, I also happen to love snowboarding, which I've never been snowboarding in my life, but if I did, like, oh, that's way more interesting. I'm going to go check out their, you know, social medias, or like, oh, let's see if their Instagram has anything about them snowboarding or what have you. So feel like, if you know something, like, put it in there, and other people that are interested in that will then, you know, find you that way.
Yeah. And using it like, using those skills to help promote other authors again. Is huge, and like a great way to make new friends who are also passionate about the stories that you love. So you can do like fan art, or maybe you're really good at making GIFs, and so you just make a bunch of those for the stories that you care about. Or like letterpress, all that crafty stuff.
Well, I also find those kind of things, like your pets or your hobbies, like it's so much easier to recognize those things in an Instagram feed as belonging to a certain person, unless you're like Rachel and you have professional pictures of yourself. A lot of the time your Instagram feed isn't your face. It's like Megan can take a picture of a book and I'll just scroll past it. Anyone took a picture of this book, but I'll recognize Ollie in a heartbeat. I'm like, oh, Megan did this. So like, or if it's a snowboarding, because now we're talking about snowboarding a lot today. I don't know. So this imaginary snowboarding author, I will recognize whoever she is. And like I see a snowboarding picture, I'll think of her rather than, I don't know, probably take more selfies. But for the most part, those are the things I recognize about people when you're just endlessly scrolling through social media.
Yes. Oh my God. Or like how Saba Tahir will do puppet shows with the food she's cooking.
Really?
Yes, it's on her Instagram stories, and she'll do like little accents for all of them.
So funny.
I watch all of them. Like I have not missed one.
But also Rachel's point about snowboarding, when applied to other things too, is like a good point that like if you have like a personal connection or experience with something that's in your book, like it's definitely something you should be talking about like in your social media, maybe even on your website, or like if you do any interviews, it should be there, because that's something that like as someone who works in a library and does some book selection for a library, like I look for those sorts of things. Like if I read the description of a book in school library journal and like I find out that the book like involves someone who's experienced something, or like even if they're like from a certain like culture or race, or if it like has a lot to do with snowboarding or something, a lot of times I'll go look up the author to see like if they have any experience.
You know
that thing. Yeah. Like I'm like, I want to know if this person knows what they're talking about, because that like influences my decision of whether or not we should get it for the library. So like definitely like put those things out there, because that'll make me more interested in like, it'll make people more interested in buying it and ordering it and all those things.
For sure. We have a question that I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet, because this is a really big one. But Amanda asked, do you recommend avoiding politics, religion, etc. on social media? Does it limit your reach as an author?
Ooh. I think if it's important to you, you should talk about it.
Yeah, it's a personal choice, because like short answer, no to the first bit, but yes to the second bit of like, no, you don't necessarily need to avoid it, although you can absolutely make that choice, but it might limit your readership. It's just, you have to make that choice. I know someone mentioned, I was like an author forum or something, of like, they won't read Scalzi, what's his first name?
Oh, John Scalzi?
John Scalzi's books, because he's so adamant about like very liberal politics and stuff. And his response was, that's fine with me. Like it's...
Yeah.
Granted,
I love John Scalzi. He's hilarious, and he has his cats on Twitter all the time. Like, he's great.
and he being so opinionated is part of his brand. But his thought was, if you don't like my politics and won't read me because of it, I don't care. But you know, he's fine without it. So
famous.
you have to make that choice yourself. But
They like definitely don't like silence yourself because like you're worried of how like people react or that certain people won't read your books. Like it's not a good reason to like mute a part of yourself that is important to you. But yeah, you don't have to talk about things if you don't want to.
Yeah. I also feel like everyone's gonna not like you because of some reason. So if you decide to not put, you know, religion on your feed, someone else is going to be angry because you don't talk enough about it, or you know, they're not going to like it because of, you know, they think you're too happy and perky, and so like regardless, you can't really win. So like if it's important to you, then you can put it on there.
And if it's that important to you, a lot of it will seep into your books anyway. So readers are going to have a pretty good idea of like the Becky Chambers book. Like we know how she feels about all things liberal. Like she was very clear with it without having to post her particular political leanings. So
that being said, like a good rule of thumb is like don't be a dick about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like if someone who you follow is atheist and they tweet something about that, and you yourself are very religious, maybe Christian or something, don't jump on and be like, well, Jesus will forgive you, you know. Like respecting other people the way you would hope that the things that you are also sharing on Twitter will be respected.
Yeah, like you can share your views in a respectful way. It doesn't have to be like, this view sucks and is stupid and like everyone who believes this should, you know, go die and everything. Like you can just be like, hey, I don't believe this way, or, you know, oh, I think it's interesting this, you know, political party instead of this one, or like you don't have to be a dick about it. Like,
like kind of cycling back to what we said at the beginning with like, what do you put on your author about me thing? For the most part, people are going to connect with the things they have in common and kind of forget about the things that they don't. There are definitely some deal breakers for me. Like if someone's adamant about something I very much disagree with, I'll remember it. But for the most part, I remember the things we have in common, not the things that are different.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so like, it feels like there's not really an easy, like this amount is okay and this amount is not. Yeah. It's really going to be so much like, what are you comfortable with? If you are very vocal and like you aren't gonna back down about something that you're passionate about, then like just knowing that like some people aren't gonna follow you, and that's probably fine because you're so passionate about it that like you wouldn't want them anyway, you know?
Or you'll find other people that are just as passionate, you know.
Yeah. With that one, it's just a real, like, what feels right to you balancing act. And know that, like, people don't have to follow you. Like, if you go on and you say something racist, like, people don't have to let you say that thing and then still promote your book, you know? Let's see. I think I had one more question, maybe. Let me check my thing. All my notes. Thank you so much, everyone who is in the discussion section. Oh, I guess the last thing I wanted to cover, since we've been going about an hour, is like deciding to switch platforms. Like we've all kind of talked about, like, oh, I used to blog a lot, or I used to be on Twitter or whatever. Like, how do you determine when it's time to cut ties with a social media account that you've built up and move in favor of like a different platform?
I think when you're not excited about it anymore. Like if you're like, I feel like, you know, posting on like hypothetically, I feel like posting on Twitter is useless. I never get any retweets, or like I haven't connected with anybody in months. Like I'm going to switch to Instagram and, you know, see what happens there, or like just that kind of deal. If
you're not enjoying it, like if it feels like a chore to you, then like you don't have to do it. Like there's no social media that you absolutely have to do. So if you aren't enjoying it, just don't do it.
Yeah. Or like if you decide, or like maybe let's say you guest star on someone else's YouTube channel and you're like, wow, that was a lot of fun. Like I really like that. And then you start doing it yourself. Like just you know, and then, you know, maybe on Twitter, you're like, hey guys, I have a YouTube channel now. And then, you know, people can follow you like across multiple platforms.
If there's something you feel like it's important to stay up on, even if you're not that into it, look into just like automatically cross-posting. Like all of my Instagram pictures go to Twitter now. So I've been less engaged with Twitter recently, but I've been more on Instagram. So my Twitter is still getting updated with those. People who follow me on both get annoyed by both, but on Twitter, you're missing more than half the stuff anyway. But so for like you're doing Facebook news posts and those go to Twitter, it's all kind of nice.
Yeah, I do that too.
I also appreciate a couple times I've come across like authors, because a lot of times, yeah, if I'm like looking for an author online, I'll go to Twitter first because so many are on Twitter. But I appreciate like if they have a Twitter account that they don't use much, but they like say like in their bio or in like their pinned tweet, like, hey, I'm mostly over on Instagram, or I'm mostly on this Tumblr page, or wherever it is that they spend most of their time, so that I can find them, because I do go to Twitter first. It's nice to be like, oh, okay, so I can find this person on Instagram, and that's where their more recent stuff will be.
Yeah, actually, kind of just saying
to like search everywhere for them.
Yeah, just saying that kind of reminded me of something, because like I was not a huge Twitter person. Like I think I got Twitter like a long time ago, just because like everyone was getting it. So I was like, all right, cool. And then I never tweeted anything. And then when I started getting into writing, I found out that the majority of the writing world is on Twitter. So I started, you know, being more active on Twitter and following the reading and writing community. And so it's kind of like knowing what platform is best for what. Is like I'm also on Instagram because a lot of my modeling related stuff is on that. But like no modeling person is on Twitter. Like that's not really a thing. So it's like you kind of have to know what platform you want to be on. And like I'd say YouTube is like a pretty safe space, but because everyone's here. But I would say there's a big writing and reading community here. Like BookTube is huge. WriterTube, I think it's called. Like that's huge. So you can be here and like you can get followers from there. But like if you're on one website that is the complete opposite of what you're trying to do, then you're not going to get many followers regardless.
Yeah, the reason I was asking was I was thinking about Becky Albertalli as we were preparing for this, because she recently made this switch because she was getting a lot of hate on Twitter, and it was becoming a very stressful place. And so she recently, even though she was very active on Twitter, like very, very active, like pulled completely from it and is now mostly on Instagram. And like
that's Twitter is like run by like someone else now for her.
Yeah. And so I found that really interesting. We've got a great question to end the chat on from Leah. Who are some of your favorite authors to follow on social media?
V.E. Schwab forever and always.
We already brought up how great Maggie Stiefvater's stuff is, so like I'll follow her on everything.
Yes.
I also really like following Rainbow Rowell because she's like a little ray of sunshine.
She is. Saba Tahir because she's hilarious.
I like Susan Dennard, especially on Instagram, because she does a lot of Instagram stories where she'll like
her stories
people's
are great.
questions, and like she like talks to you throughout her day of like, oh, this is what I'm doing, working on Blood Witch right now, like this is what I'm struggling with. So
yeah, Amy Kaufman does the same.
Oh, I haven't. Okay, I'll check that out. Jay Kristoff, because he's freaking hilarious. And he always retweets. Well, he retweets too, but like reposts and stuff on Instagram, fan art. And people have made a lot of fan art, so it's really cool to see that.
For me, John Green is the king of. I'm more interested in him as a person and his social media than his books. Like he like obviously John Green
he's cool.
know how to social media, but like they're the ones that like I thought they're everywhere on my feeds because they're everywhere.
Crazy. I don't think I follow John Green anywhere. I'm like, wow, I've like never seen him on social media.
Yeah. I think I have him on like everything.
Yeah. And Hank.
I've maybe
everywhere.
seen him retweeted like once. I don't know. I've like never even seen him.
I also really love, I mentioned her earlier, Lily Mead. She has an amazing YouTube channel and is always so fun on Twitter. And also Rashni Chokshi, because her Instagram is just so inspiring. I want to cry thinking about it.
I'm going to follow her right now.
Yeah.
I did in this chat as well. Her Instagram is beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm listing these people. I'll put it in the discussion section right before we sign off. So that list will be there for you too. So you can go and find them all on social media.
Tahara Mafi and Ransom Riggs, just because like they're together, so you just get this whole like picture of this like uber author life that looks way more fabulous. Than I'm looking at her feed; it's all like yoga poses and stuff. Tahara Mafi looks great doing everything. So,
well, because she and Ransom Riggs are together, it's just really cute to like hear their funny things on Twitter because she's always posting like random little like things that happen between them or like conversations. It's really cute.
Yeah. Justina Ireland has been doing this great thing lately in the lead up to her book coming out and now for like some of her friends' books where she like photoshops her book into popular movie scenes and stuff. And I have loved that so much. Yeah.
Oh my god. Sorry, I'm just on Rashi Chosky's Instagram, but like look at that beautiful cover.
I know. Oh my
god. Oh my god. That is beautiful. Oh, there's a cat. Okay.
And sold.
And sold right there. All right. Is his name Walrus? Oh my gosh. Okay, like no, like not, and this isn't promoted or anything. I'm just accidentally promoting her a lot because she looks really cool. Okay.
Just went and accidentally fell in love with her as a human. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I liked her book. It was cool, so just haven't followed her yet.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the discussion section if there's anyone we've missed who has a great social media presence. Definitely always looking for new people. Did anyone have any last minute thoughts on branding?
We covered a lot.
Yeah, we did.
I would say just don't stress about it too much. Like you don't have to have the perfect author brand. Like
And it'll probably
somewhere.
change, like from, like I know my YouTube style is very different from 5 years ago when I started on YouTube. And like, that's a good thing.
And like, there are authors who have like 0 social media accounts, like, and that's fine too. If you like, also are really private and don't want that, like that's your choice.
And if you get an agent or you're with, you know, like a manager or something like that, they might have some say over it, or you know, they might recommend that you do a certain thing as well, so you can get like mentors kind of for it.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, dude.
Yeah. If you're watching this after the fact, unfortunately we can't put links in the discussion section unless you are the word nerds, but if you're watching this after the fact, definitely drop a line in the comments section to your social media. This will be a place that will be judgment free for that.
Shameless self-promo.
Yeah, shameless self-promo. But only once this video is processed because it won't let you put it in the discussion. I'm very sorry. We will be back next week for another live chat, which will probably either be a write-in or Camp Nano related. We'll let you know. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thanks, Helen, for joining us too.
Thanks for having
me. Also, a reminder, we have videos every day of the week, so feel free to subscribe if you want to do that. And that is all the promotion we're going to do now. Okay. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.